Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the MPN 101 Partner Community Call. My name is Chinmay Bhavani Shankar. I'm part of the U.S. Partner Experience team. I call myself the simplification expert. With the MPN 101 community and the community calls, my goal is to simplify the partner program one topic at a time. And today's topic is Digital Partner of Record. And we have with us Leah Childress, who is the Business Program Manager and the subject matter expert on Digital Partner of Record on the Worldwide Partner Incentives team here at Microsoft. Hi, Leah.
Hi, Chinmay. Thanks for the introduction there. So I may have worked with a lot of you before. I was over in the US sub previously, so if you recognize my name, I have changed roles. I am the digital partner of record owner. I also am the GTM for Azure as well, incentives specifically, as well as a usage design lead, also for incentives. So all of the incentive-based questions that you may have, I'm also very happy to answer. And this is a shameless plug also for Sarah Broadbent and Mike Steinogle, who are the U.S. leads. So if you are U.S.-based and looking for a contact since I have changed roles, please reach out to them as well. Chinmay, it'd be great if you could drop their info in the chat. I know that we do have a broader audience here today, so I'm really happy that all of you were able to join. And I'm really hoping this is valuable to you to learn more about Digital Partner of Record. So we're going to be doing an end-to-end walkthrough. So some of this information may seem very basic, but I want to make sure you guys have it and that you can ask questions about it.
Thank you, Leah. And you have a lot on your plate, and sounds like folks on the call, you can get a lot of your questions answered as we go through the content. Before we get to the meat of the content, I will be doing a high-level overview of the Microsoft Partner Program. If you haven't been on an MPN 101 call before, it's pretty standard. I'm sorry if you've already heard this, but just to get everyone on the same page, and then we'll dive into the actual topic. So if you didn't already know, the Microsoft Partner Program has 3 membership options. There is Network Membership, which is free, Action Pack Subscription, which is an annual paid subscription, with which you get access to internal use licenses and dedicated support. And then there's Competencies, which is an earned designation, and then there's a silver and gold level in there. With competencies, there are a few steps that you'll have to take in order to earn that designation as a competency partner. We do have a lot of people on the line who already have a gold cloud competency, but there are typically 4 steps that I'll go through quickly as well. For the Action Pack subscription, it is about $475 a year. There are no exams or assessments, and you get access to Microsoft software as internal use licenses. It is ideal for small businesses with 10 or fewer employees and independent software vendors or businesses that are just new to the Microsoft ecosystem and are trying to build their repertoire and figure out what their journey would be with Microsoft. The earned designation, the competencies, there are 17 different competencies today. And I say today because the Microsoft Partner Program does change over time, and there might be additions or retirement of some of these competencies, and you'll have a lot of time if we do end up retiring some of these competencies. But as of today, there are 17 competencies that are broken out into these 6 pillars. And of these 17 competencies, there are 5 cloud performance competencies. There are 4 steps to attaining a cloud competency, and really any competency is that you'll have to demonstrate sales performance, you'll have to pass some technical exams that are specific to that competency and that product offering, you'll have to provide customer evidence, and lastly, you'll have to pay a fee. And in return, you get unlimited cloud support in the product that you have a cloud competency in. So if you have an Office 365 competency, you get unlimited signature cloud support for Office 365. You get additional software licenses and Azure credit. So there's a core set of benefits with every competency, and then there's an incremental set of benefits depending on the competency that you get. You also get eligibility to partner incentives, and there's guaranteed account coverage, which means you'll have at the gold cloud competency level, which means that you'll have someone at Microsoft helping you with your partner journey, a point of contact, if you will, for any questions that you have. As I said, there are 5 cloud performance competencies around Office 365. There's cloud productivity and small and mid-market cloud solutions. Around Microsoft Azure, there is cloud platform competency. Around Microsoft Dynamics CRM, there's the cloud customer relationship management competency. And around enterprise mobility and security, there's the enterprise mobility and management competency. Every competency has its own set of requirements, and you can go to the partner portal to get the latest set of requirements and exams and assessments that are associated with each of these competencies. On a very high level, these 5 cloud competencies have a core set of benefits. So you get a certain number of product support incidents. You get access to phone support. Signature cloud support only, again, for cloud competencies. And then there is technical pre-sales and deployment services, essentially through which you get technical consultation, one-on-one technical consultation, which are also known as advisory hours. You get access to the Microsoft Visual Studio Enterprise or the Office 365 demo. These are just some of the highlights. You can also get make a competency logo that you can then put on your website. And most importantly, you get eligibility for select incentive programs with a competency. Incremental benefits, some examples of that is that you get additional internal use licenses. So for example, with cloud productivity competency, you get, in addition to what you would get with the core benefits, you get Microsoft Office 365 E5 seats for cloud productivity. So just an example, again, the single source of truth is the Microsoft Partner Portal. Make sure you go there to take a look at what benefits are associated with each of these competencies. If you don't have a cloud competency and you're planning on getting one, then the Cloud Enablement Desk is your resource. It is an offering that we have where you get access to a cloud program specialist for up to 6 months to help you get to that cloud competency, to help you build your cloud practice. So the only requirement is that you're an active member of the Microsoft Partner Network with an MPN ID, and that you're willing to invest the time to obtain a competency, and you're willing to pay for the competency when you obtain it. Since we are investing a resource dedicated to you for up to 6 months, we're hoping that you are interested in building your Microsoft Cloud practice as well. And as an overview, again, I know Leah will talk more about this, but when we talked about a competency requirement, the first one was demonstrating sales performance. And for that, you'll have to get recognition for the cloud consumption that you're driving. And Digital Partner of Record would be the one way to do that. It associates a servicing partner to a cloud subscription, and by being the Digital Partner of Record is the only way you can qualify for incentives. These are both different ways for you to get that demonstration of sales performance to qualify for a silver or gold competency. And partner association is the other route. So you could either be the Digital Partner of Record or the Delegated Admin, both of which are controlled by customers. They assign you as the Digital Partner of Record or the Delegated Admin. I will now hand it over to Leah to dive deeper into this topic.
All right, thank you for that. So I know a lot of you have a lot of questions about Digital Partner Record as well as Partner Association in general. So I'm hoping that we can run through everything end to end here. And at any point, Chinmay, please feel free to stop me for questions as they come in. Would you like it if I took over as presenter?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to do that really quick. And I'll give it a second because I know that everybody's on Event Builder right now and it usually has a little bit of a lag. So I'll try to be mindful of that. So the agenda for us today is to do a Digital Partner of Record overview, what we've heard, DPOR improvements, both functional as well as resource awareness and communication, and then new partner association methods, delegated admin privileges, DAP, for Azure. So you'll notice it's in air quotes because there isn't actually a formal name associated to it yet. That's just the internal working name at this point. So you'll see more announcements in the future about it, but just take it with a grain of salt, but it might be called something else. Okay, so what is Digital Partner of Record? Digital Partner of Record ultimately is a qualification for MPN cloud competencies. It qualifies you for cloud incentives once the competencies are attained, and then it also enables you to have a single view of the reporting into revenue usage consumption driven by the customer. So this is really an online way. It's a capability to attach a partner to that customer's online subscription. And it benefits both the partner, the customer, as well as Microsoft. So we do realize, and I'll get to this, that some of the benefits to the customer are lacking. So take that with a grain of salt. There is partner value because you are able to attain competencies as well as the incentives I mentioned to get a closer engagement with Microsoft and to have improved customer discoverability. So that is a very high level what DPOR is. Partners must be added as DPOR each time a new subscription is sold, regardless of whether the customer is new or existing. So that is something to always be really diligent about when you're working with your customer. And I'll get into how the customer actually goes in and does the attachment here in a minute. Just so you guys are aware, only the customer can make these designations. It's not something that Microsoft can change. It's not something partners can change. There is some increased functionality for Azure that I'll run through here, again, in a minute. But we understand the value to the customer is really just the enhanced support and engagement from the partner and Microsoft. Ideally, having that engagement optimizes the consumption for the services, and it has improved partner discoverability. So it's kind of a two-sided thing for both partners and customers. So also, I just want to call your guys' attention to this right-hand column for the where to add DPOR, how to change or remove a subscription, and then there's a couple of videos up here, as well as the DPOR page, and then the partner incentives page it's on your MPN as well. Chinmay, I did drop in the most direct link into the chat here in the Skype if you want to send that out to everybody for the DPOR resources page. Some of the resources have been updated recently to include some of the functionality that we're going to walk through today. So there are a number of shortcomings, and these are things that we've heard directly from partner and customers. We hear you guys on this. It's not something that's necessarily simple to fix. In a lot of cases, because incentives or DPOR was not designed for incentives, it's not necessarily a seamless experience. So DPOR is complex. It is a pain. We've heard that a number of times. That's why it's right at the top here. The limit of one partner per subscription is problematic when there are multiple partners involved on different workloads, partner association not being available at a resource service level, the unnatural task for the customer to go in and take this action when there's no real value prop to them, and then complex and burdensome for the customer. In a lot of cases, it's not necessarily the person that you're working with on the sales side. It's maybe somebody technical who has the access to grant it. The customer holds the partner ransom and will not add the partner. In a lot of cases, I know partners are writing this into their statements of work. I don't see an issue with that, but I've also had customers come to me and say, well, I'm not going to sign the statement of work. So I can see the problem on both sides of the house. Difficulty to identify the customer in the organization who can add or change a DPOR. Again, this goes back to the sales versus technical person who could be adding it. The customer doesn't want to see the partner. The customer doesn't want the partner to see the consumption, so they're not adding them. The transactional partner steals, and I'm air quoting this, DPOR, because the LSP signs a DPOR contract with the customer. And this is not necessarily LSP specific. I do see a lot of partners putting this in their statement of work. I don't see an issue there, but I do think there is some confusion that is caused based on I would say, our naming convention. Partner of record, as you saw on Chinmai's slides, were called out as transactional partner, digital partner of record. So I can see that there. Chinmai has let me know there are a bunch of questions, so I'll pause here real quick and I'll let her moderate those.
Yeah, thank you, Leah. A few questions that came up, and I just wanted to address them before we go deeper into this discussion. So the first question is delegated admin only for Azure? Sylvia is asking.
No. So delegated admin right now, or like
Yes.
DAP, that is in Office as well. So that is a way that you can attain cloud competencies. So when I'm talking about DAP in air quotes, DAP does not exist in Azure right now. That's why we're having the conversation about it. And because DAP already does exist, delegated admin exists in Office, that's why I'm just calling it out as like an air quoted thing where we're not going to name it the same thing because we don't want to have this confusion around naming once again.
But
so DAP
similar
does qualify.
functionality will be available for Azure in the future, is that right?
I will get to that at the end here.
All right, sorry. Okay, jumping the gun, so maybe we wait on that. I
think there's probably a lot of questions that we'll get to, but
okay.
Keep going.
Okay, sorry. For the Azure DPOR discussion, can we get an explanation why the fee payout changed to 7% starting for Q2, especially for those of us that aren't LSPs and can't sell SCEs?
Yeah, so the 7%, part of the decision around that was because we wanted to take some of the funding ultimately and pivot it so that we were driving the quarter-over-quarter growth, which that has a 20% on it, and then the customer ads. So it was really just pivoting strategy and being able to incentivize on different things. That's ultimately the reason that it changed to 7%. We do have those other two incentive levers within Azure that you're qualified for.
Perfect, thank you. And any advice on keeping LSPs from changing DPOR on workloads they don't work on? They happen to be global admins in Office 365, so they can change it without the customer's approval.
Well, they can't change it just because they're a global admin. They wouldn't have, unless the customer is granting them access like to their login information, which that shouldn't happen. They are not allowed to change it even if they have privileges.
Got it. So unless the customer is explicitly giving permission to the LSP cannot change DPR on workloads without the customer's approval. Is that right?
No. So in no scenario can anybody but the customer change it. If for some reason the LSP was logging in with like credentials or something that were the customers, that's a different story. And that's not something that we can gate for because, I mean, the customers should keep their logins internal.
Right.
That's, a scenario that I have never really encountered.
Right.
But part of the reason that we do the proof of execution audits is to ensure that the right partners are getting credit. Now, they are a random selection based audit. There are a couple of criteria that flag that could trigger an audit. So like change of partner of record. So if it's changing from one partner to the next, that next partner who's attached is going to get audited. That's not part of the random. It just happens every time. So I wouldn't have like a cause for concern if the partner of record's changing and is switching over to a partner because they are going to be audited. They are going to be asked for proof of execution. If they can't provide it, then they're not getting paid. So it's not to their benefit to get it switched to them unless they're actually doing work. And like I said, DPOR is innately flawed because it does only allow one partner per subscription. That doesn't mean that like different partners can't be doing work on the same subscription, and it's at the customer's discretion who they're assigning.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. The other question. Sorry, I'm trying to. How do we assure DPOR if we're not a LAR and don't sell licensing? However, we are the partner of deployment.
So here's my recommendation for you. My guidance to anybody, LAR or otherwise, LSP, whatever you want to call them. The reality is it should be to the partner that is providing the services. So it's the the partner of record should be somebody who is helping design, build, deploy, or manage a solution. Any transactional things should not be getting paid out for DPOR. They have other incentives to worry about. So my strong recommendation is, if you are encountering this type of behavior, is to talk to the customer and, explain the value proposition to DPOR, because in a lot of cases, and I've seen this before, the customer goes in and does like a blanket bulk tagging. The LSP or LAR is not even aware of this happening, and then they get POE'd and they say, hey, we never asked the customer to do this. They went in and tagged us. We don't have POE, and then they don't earn on it, and that's not an issue. But I mean, the bigger issue is making sure that you're, having the conversation with the customer up front, so that it's not a surprise to them that they need to go in and take this action. And we recognize, like, it's not the most seamless, easy action for the customer in a lot of cases, but we're trying to make it easier. So just keep that in mind.
Got it. I'll let you continue, Leah. We'll get to all of the questions at a later time. I know you have some content which might actually address some of these questions also.
Okay, great. So there's a bunch of other scenarios on here. I don't know that it's valuable for me to go into them. It sounds like you guys have like a pretty good basis in the issues. So I can definitely keep rolling. Can we take a poll real quick on the chat and just see if people want me to keep going through this, or if you want me to move on to other areas that we're potentially going to have questions about?
There are a lot of questions right now. I think.
Okay, I'll keep moving on then, because I might be able to answer some in like the later slides.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to make sure we get through the content, and then folks, I am looking at all the questions. Keep them coming, and we'll get to all of them by the end of the call.
Okay, so we're working on partner association focus areas. So we're trying to introduce true customer value for partners on their online subscription. So DAP for Azure, again, air quote this, for FY19. And we're going to have like an in-depth section review here in a second on both DPOR and DAP. Add the ability to tag multiple partners within a single subscription. So DAP for Azure, again, we're going to check out the section. Add the ability to tag partners at the service resource level. We'll get there also. One thing that is available now is move the DPOR functionality from the billing management section within the Azure portal and enable the subscription admin to add, change, remove DPOR. So this is available now, and it's under the DPOR section highlighted. And then continue to enhance DPOR and other partner association processes. So we have the quick link and notifications, which I'll run through here in a minute, and then the readiness materials. So again, check out that link that Chinmay dropped in, so that you have the resources that are available. That is a really great page. And if you guys have any questions, please reach out to me directly. Okay, so this is the management portal. So the existing one was on the right-hand side that was historic, and then the new additional entry point that was added back in July is the Azure management portal. So you can go ahead and access it that way as well. So this is one that I think everybody hopefully was going to be really excited about. So for Azure, there is now a quick link method that is available. So what this means is a partner can go in and they can actually add their subscription and MPN ID that needs to be associated and hit Save Partner. What ends up happening is that sends an email to the subscription admin or subscription contributor on the customer side. That subscription admin or subscription contributor then clicks on a link, and they are brought to the following page. So you can see on the right-hand side, that's the page that the customer would see. The partner ID has already been entered and validated, and then they just have to hit Save Partner. So this is making it a little bit more seamless if you're having, the issue of trying to figure out who within the customer can actually do the tagging. This is a way to proactively do it. And here are the steps down below for how to do it. So you can click on this. This is, again, in the FAQ as well as the DPOR overview deck that are on that DPOR page. And these slides will be available as well, so this is another way to check it out. So this is a very seamless way to get yourself added as DPOR. It's still reliant on the customer to go in and take an action, so that is still them validating that, yes, you are doing the work on the subscription. And then as part of that, there is a sample that is up in the quick guide as part of the partner-initiated quick link method. There's a sample email that a partner can send to the customer that we prepared. There's a full Word version available under the customer guide for attaching digital partner of record. And this basically is like a more personal way of sending an alert to the customer saying, hey, we know we sent this, can you go click on it? Because in a lot of cases, people don't just open emails and follow links and click on things. So because this is new, this is recommended that you engage with the customer. It doesn't have to be in this way, but it's at least a template so that it makes your guys' lives a little bit easier to get the information out there to them. Okay, so some of the DPOR enhancements that are ongoing. So we are constantly updating and improving all of the resources on the landing page. So the FAQ, the step-by-step instructions, the PowerPoint decks, and the videos, those are all maintained. So if you have any questions around those or think something, could be more clear, again, reach out to me directly because I can make changes. Fix the DPOR add remove email process. So we do know that there are some gaps with emails getting received right now. We're working through how to solve for that. You guys should be receiving an add remove email at this point. If you're not, definitely flag it to OCENA or your local online alias, support alias specifically, and they'll make sure to investigate that. We're going to have improved partner cloud dashboard reporting, so timeliness and accuracy. This is an ongoing thing also. Introduction of notifications for deprovisioned or expired subscriptions. So this is one that is now available. It is part of the most recent update to the documents. So you should be receiving notifications anytime a subscription is deprovisioned, abandoned, in grace period, as well as expired. So those are all called out in the FAQ if you have questions about a status, for example. As far as in grace goes, that's a notification that is sent roughly 45 to 60 days prior to an EA expiring. And that would mean that you need to re-engage with the customer and ensure that you are tagged as digital partner of record. Now, for Azure, you will remain tagged as digital partner of record because the subscription does not change at renewal, like the subscription ID. If it is Office or EMS or Dynamics, any usage one, you will need to re-engage with the customer to get re-tagged because the subscription numbers themselves do expire. So you'll need to get re-added. So just keep that in mind. You will be getting notices about that, but just be really diligent that you're following up on those because that's the only way that you're notified. Those historically have not existed. So we want to make sure that we're continuing to reinforce the intent of DPOR with partners and customers. It does concern me a little bit that people are saying, partners are going out and doing a behavior that isn't necessarily in line with the intent of the program. Like, we really do want to reward partners who are, helping the customer, and we want the customer to feel like, they're gaining value from that interaction. So if a customer ever comes to me and tells me, hey, I'm getting asked by two partners to be put on as DPOR and I'm not comfortable with either, it's at their discretion. So just make sure it's like a very smooth interaction with them. I understand wanting to put it in SOW. I don't see an issue with that necessarily, but just make sure that, they understand the intent of why you're doing it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an incentives-based conversation or, even a competency-based conversation. It does give you guys line of sight into what their subscriptions are doing and does give you the capability and opportunity to optimize those. Okay, so then further clarify the impacts of DPOR on the GID or agreement renewals. So again, that goes kind of back to the notifications. Just make sure that you're being really diligent with maintaining your interactions with customers if you're continuing to work with them. I know it's very easy to, get comfortable and let things ride, and it can be like an odd conversation to have with a customer if you're not currently engaged with them, but hopefully it's something where you're continuing to provide value to the customer and you have, a deep relationship. Again, all of these resources are captured on the Digital Partner of Record page, which is screenshotted on the right here. Okay, so now what you've all been waiting for. Hopefully. So Delegated Admin for Azure, so we're going to air quote that as DAP again, is a way for customers to provide partners with access to their Azure subscriptions. So there's 3 options that the customer can give to the partner. It could be full control, it could be read-write, or it could be read-only. So this is role-based access control model. So it really just depends what the customer is comfortable with. I know in some cases customers likely, it's not super likely, will not want partners to have access at all. That's a possibility because in some cases, they don't want them to have DPOR. So we recognize that is, an obstacle, but ideally you're providing value within the subscriptions by having this type of access. And this is going to ultimately be a way for us to replace, the DPOR methodology, and it's going to allow us to enable both at the subscription level as well as the resource and service level, which has been a huge ask throughout the years. And then there can be multiple partners with DAP on the same subscription because it goes down to the resource granularity. So we'll be able to report which partners are assigned to which subscriptions at which level of permissions and what the underlying consumption is. Based on the importance or activity, we will associate the specific role-based access control models and roles, manage, deploy, help desk, etc. We can recognize and reward partners for these accordingly. So this is huge and very exciting. So once this goes into place, largely, we're going to consider it for incentives because it's necessary. It gives the level of granularity that everybody has been asking for. And this is slated to happen in FY19. So how does DAP for Azure compare to CSP? So DAP for Azure will essentially mirror the privileges of CSP, and it will have that a partner will have on this customer CSP subscription and mirror the way the partner initiates a CSP Azure relationship with a customer. So this should be a very natural interaction where you're going in, you're servicing the subscription end to end, and then ultimately because you're doing that, you're getting credit for it. So how is DAP different from Office 365? So DAP for Azure will provide better ability for partners that are active within customer accounts under delegated roles. For Office 365 right now, I will call out that you still need the designation of DPOR in order to earn incentives. So even if you have DAP access within Office, you still need to be DPOR for the incentive purposes. That doesn't mean you need it for competencies, but that's just something I want to call out. And DAP for Dynamics, same deal, Chinmay. It's, again, we still need the DPOR designation for the incentive piece of it. Okay, so now I just want to pause here because I know that was a lot of information. And there's a lot of questions I'm sure that'll come out, well after this call once you've had time to think about it and digest everything. So I wanted to give you guys time to ask those. We have about 20 minutes left.
So for Delegated Admin for Dynamics 365, Leah, there is a way that a customer can assign DPOR for Dynamics 365. Is that right? Or yeah. Delegated Admin, sorry.
Yeah, so as far as I know, there is delegated admin within Dynamics, but the DPOR qualification is still there. You would still have to be DPOR in order to earn incentives.
Got it. So there is an incentive credit. Sylvia, you asked, it gives the partner visibility, but no incentive credit. No, they do. You would get incentive credit with DAP for Dynamics.
You wouldn't get the incentive credit for DAP. It has to be DPOR.
Got it.
That's the only way we recognize incentives right now. That doesn't mean you're not getting credit for it towards a competency, though.
Got it. Okay. So let me get to some of the questions that people have been waiting on. Talked about DAP in Dynamics 365. I'm just trying to get to the top. customers have concerns from security point of view. We have one big customer who won't add us because they have a security concern. Is that something you can address?
I mean, so that is a hard one because, like, realistically, because it's at the customer's discretion and they have security concerns. I mean, without knowing specifically what those are, the reality is all you can do as DPOR is see their consumption data. That's it.
Right.
You can't do anything malicious with it. And I know a lot of partners, or a lot of customers, sorry, have a misconception around that. So it might be as simple as, explaining the ins and outs to them, or it might not be that simple. Maybe they really are just that gated, in which case, like, you can attempt to have the conversation, but it might not result in what you want.
Yeah.
That's a really hard one.
Yeah. Is there any sort of explanation or justification material on the DPOR page that a partner could use to kind of share with their customer and say, this is what this actually means, and if you have concerns about security?
I don't know that security is necessarily addressed that directly. Mm-hmm. It definitely has like customer guidance on here, but that's more around the actual tagging. And it has like the benefits to customers. So it says customers benefit from adding digital partner of records. Doing so provides the partner with access to usage and consumption data, which will allow the partner to better serve the customer and help them perfect the use of Microsoft services for the desired business outcome. This partner will automatically be contacted for any fast track services, questions, or issues. So it doesn't specify like that's all they have access to, but that is all they have access to. It's never been called out as like, we've never like highlighted malicious intent or anything in like an FAQ. And how, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. If a transactional partner takes the digital partner of record and passes on the incentive to customer, what can an SI partner do?
So, I mean, that's an interesting question, and that's also something that it's not necessarily something that would never happen, but it is also not to that transacting partner's benefit to do so. I mean, we change these incentives every year, so putting that into any sort of long-term agreement or sales model is very risky. I mean, we absolutely can't dictate how the incentives are used or like what exposure level the customers have to them. So, I mean, it might be happening, but that's like not the intent of the program, is to reward partners for driving an intended behavior. And if they're driving that intended behavior, they can work out, whatever they want to with the customer.
Got it. And another rare one, customer uses digital partner of record to outplay to partners and assigns digital partner of record to the partner who will give the customer the highest discount for the next project.
Can you run me through that one again? Sorry. I think I followed it.
Yeah, so customer uses digital partner of record to kind of have a competition among partners on who gives them the highest discount. Have you seen scenarios like that?
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's not the intent of the program to have that happen. Like realistically, I would advise anybody, partners in general, against discussing the fact that you're getting an incentive for DPOR. I understand that a lot of customers do know about it, and they are ultimately going to take quotes that are favorable to them, and they're going to do what they need to do to have that happen. But realistically, again, it's very risky to bake incentives into like a sales motion.
Right.
So, I mean, I would advise against that because it's not necessarily benefiting you long term. There's no like guarantee that incentives are staying in market, especially for like usage or consumption. I'm not saying we're getting rid of them, but you never know in advance like what those are going to be.
And I remember talking about this with you and Mike too, Leah, that incentives should always be considered as kind of the cherry on top because the programs do keep changing and it is at the discretion of Microsoft and based on where we want the direction of the business to go. So it could be short term, it could be long term, and can't quite depend on that as
Yeah. And like, frankly, if partners are winning bids because of that, like that doesn't help their long term, because if we're changing incentives, then there's not a way for them to maintain their competitive edge on that. So I would wholeheartedly advise against that. But there's not a whole lot that I could do about that, because again, it's, at the partner's discretion how they're using the incentives.
The other question was, after doing digital partner of record, how do we get to know whether we need to show a proof of execution or not? And why is it that incentives are calculated only after proof of execution is accepted?
Okay, so for proof of execution, we want to make sure, like I said, that the right partners are getting incentivized, basically. So that's why we have the proof of execution checkpoint in place. It's not for every single subscription. It's a random 25% for Azure, for example. If you have higher volume and higher volumes of subscriptions that you're working on, you do have a higher chance of being selected, because it's within a pool. So each week there is a pool of subscriptions, and we're pulling out a random 25%. So if you are a high percentage of that pool, you might get selected more. As far as proof of execution goes, though, we want to have it be accepted from the time it initiates, because we don't want to pay partners that are not necessarily doing the work. So we understand that the customers are making designations, and it is at their discretion. But at the same time, we've also seen behavior from customers where they're doing blanket tagging, or maybe it's a partner who just had a conversation with them and said, "Hey, can you tag me?" We want to make sure like the actual like deployment work, migration work, implementation, solution management work is happening, which is why we go through these POE cycles. So from the time it's approved, that's when we're going to start paying. We're going to start paying on the subscription right away if there wasn't ever a POE. But if there is, then we have to recognize that for compliance reasons that it took place. It was an event that took place, and we need to be diligent about how we treat those.
Understood. Are there any plans to build a workaround for assigning digital partner of record for multiple partners working with a single client?
Not for digital partner of record per se, because DAP is going to have the ability to have multiple partners working with a single client on a single subscription. So that will clean up that issue.
Got it. The issues with one partner per subscription is that partners are measured on DPOR to show that we're influencing consumption. How do we resolve this? We have a few 100,000 in digital partner of record, but we've influenced more consumption than this.
I'm not sure I followed that question. So
a partner influences more than they can actually show that they're a digital partner of record for. So there's only one digital partner of record.
Yeah, and that's hard, because again, that's at the customer discretion. So if these subscriptions are out there and they're driving, usage or consumption at the customer, and nobody's tagged as digital partner of record, it might be having the conversation with the customer to go and tag them, and that's part of maintaining that ongoing working relationship. But if it's something where there's other partners tagged at the subscription level because they're doing work on different workloads, for example, then again, it's at the customer's discretion if they're going to maintain them. Now, if both partners are doing work, it really is up to the customer who they're tagging.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of this is dependent on the customer, and there's really no way to override it. There's another question about a client who's not assigning the partner as digital partner of record, even though they delivered like an entire project phase 1, phase 2. So again, as you said before, is it that you kind of have to have that discussion with the customer up front and tell them the value, and the rest is up to the customer?
Well, I would recommend the conversation up front, just because that way you're tagged from the initial start of like consumption happening. Now, if you have a client who hasn't done the assignment yet, but you've done the work, you can still get assigned, and going forward, you're going to get paid. So it's still to your benefit to have that conversation. Now, the only thing that I would say is, make sure that they understand the value prop for like why you're trying to get this. And I understand the value prop is a little bit lacking for the customer. But, tell them you want to help optimize their business. And the only way that like realistically you can do that is to have access to view their subscriptions. And you can't do that without digital partner of record unless you had transacted it. So there might be like a lot of opportunity for them to leverage things that they're already paying for. Like that's realistically how I would approach it personally.
Yeah.
Just trying to think through if there's like another scenario. And if, for example, it's in Azure, those Azure quick links, like you can go and make the association and then they literally just have to hit the button that says approve. So that might be an easy way to do it if it's just somebody, like maybe it's somebody within the customer that you're not necessarily working directly with that actually has to do the assignment. So it might just be a disconnect on the customer side too, even if they understand the value prop and they're willing to assign you.
Right. And another scenario, our partners are often hired as a neutral advisor to our customers. Digital partner of record could create the impression that the partner only recommended Azure because they're incentivized by digital partner of record.
I mean, I guess it could create that.
Yeah, and I mean,
we're like realistically, we're not the only cloud company that
correct.
benefits, partners for engaging with customers. A lot of partners are working with multiple cloud platforms even, and they're still recommending Azure, and it's not because they're making an incentive on it, it's because it's the best solution for the customer. So I think you just need to approach it from, a very pragmatic perspective and say, I really do think that, this is why it is the best product for you, and like I hope that you actually believe that when you're making that pitch.
Yeah.
And the incentive realistically, it should be like a cherry on top for driving the consumption, because this is not like a point of sale conversation. This is something where the customer has already opted in for Azure, and you would be going in and helping them optimize that experience, or they already have Office licenses or Dynamics, like they've already elected to do this by purchasing it. And realistically, at this point, you're just trying to drive the consumption. So you're not necessarily influencing them towards one platform or the other. They've already made that commitment, and you ultimately can help them, prove it out and optimize it.
Yeah. As a Tier 2 CSP, I can see in the partner dashboard a link to request a reseller relationship with a customer. How do I request an advisor relationship if the customer wants to be billed by Microsoft directly?
That is a fantastic question, but I do not know the answer to that. I'm less familiar with the CSP portal. And yeah, I'm really not sure. I would reach out to Osina on that one and see what they say. Because that might just be like a level of access that you have within the portal. Like maybe somebody else has a different level where they can request a different access type, or maybe, there's a different recommendation they have, but I really couldn't answer you there.
So Osina at Microsoft.com, is that right?
Yeah. Well, if you're a U.S. partner, sorry, I always default to Osina because I came over from the U.S.
Yeah.
They'll still be able to help you regardless. They might just route you to, a different region.
Got it. Sorry, I'm trying to get to some of the newer questions. If there are multiple delegated admin for Dynamics, how do we know what revenue we will get credited for on Competency?
So Chinmay, do you have any insight into that? I'm further from Competency, frankly.
Multiple partners. I think I don't know how a customer would know how much revenue, but once the customer assigns you as the delegated admin, you should be able to see that in your cloud summary report. So there is a report. I think it's called My Insights right now. I'll put the link in the window shortly. But you should be able to see how much consumption you're driving if you are the delegated admin or the digital partner of record. So based on what the customer does, you'll get to know how much you are influencing, and that should be able to help you kind of work towards a competency. Can you better define digital partner of record qualification? Microsoft decks say plan, design, build.
Sorry, can you ask that again?
Can you better define digital partner of record qualification? How does one qualify for being the digital partner of record?
Okay, I mean, so the reality is it's a partner who is helping the customer design, build, deploy, or manage a solution. So if you're, proving out, like doing a proof of concept, and the customer takes that and implements it, that would qualify. If you're, helping them manage a solution to get it to, an adoption phase, that would be another way to do it. I don't know that I'm answering your question because I'm not 100% sure. It's not a deeper question.
Yeah, I think and maybe Larry asked this question, and he wanted to understand how would I know that I qualified to be the digital partner of record for a customer, I guess, for a customer subscription.
How would you know if you qualified? Okay.
Yeah.
So, Gotcha. Okay, so that is, you're going to see that on your cloud dashboard. You're going to see it tagged as digital partner of record on there. So you'll be able to see the subscription as well as like the customer name. And then also, if you're, to the earning stage, if you pass that $200 minimum threshold for earning incentives, then you'll see earnings reports within CHIP for Azure or within PyXP for online service usage.
Got it. I'm just pasting the question in there for you, Leah, just so you have that. Sounds like there are a few questions on dynamics. Okay. Yep, a lot of questions around need a solution for visibility into all of the customer's dynamic subscription, as we can only see the subscriptions the customer has named us for. For instance, we may not see that the customer missed naming us for their team member subscription. How can we verify that the customer successfully named us for all of the appropriate corresponding subscriptions?
So, I mean, you're going to, again, see these on your cloud dashboard. And like if the customer missed something, there's not a way to reconcile that because you don't have visibility into things that the customer hasn't tagged you on. So I would recommend just being diligent with, the customer and making sure that like they've tagged you on all the appropriate things and that you're seeing them in your cloud dashboard. So if you're working on like team members, for example, that it's tagged in there.
And why not allow customers to enter partners' MPN ID from the admin portal to enable DPOR association?
Why not allow customers to enter it?
Sorry, can you? Yeah, that was the question. Can
you repeat it though? I'm just trying to think through it.
Yeah, it's pasted for you there.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, some of these are
I understand.
Easier to read. Okay, why not allow customers to enter partners' MPN ID from the admin portal to? I mean, that is what the customer does. So they can make the entry. What I was highlighting for the quick link was just additional functionality. So the guides for the customers are actually up on the DPOR site, so you can see how they can make associations and give them like step-by-step guidance. So they should be able to enter the partner's MPN ID and make that DPOR association.
Sounds good. I know we're running out of time. Leah, if partners need to kind of contact you to take any of these conversations offline, what would be the best way?
I would say reach out via like my alias. You can like drop that in the chat.
Got it. Sorry, I think we stopped it.
And like also, I would definitely recommend engaging with your local PI leads as well.
Yes.
So that would be, any conversations that we're having. Ideally, your PDM would facilitate, or if you don't have one, then you would reach out to the U.S. leads if you were in the U.S., for example, and they would help facilitate a conversation just to make sure they're aware of all the issues too. Some of the issues are more regional based, and a lot of the times they can answer them.
There are a few additional questions. We did stop the stream, however, Do you have a couple minutes to see what else we might have missed?
I have about, 5 minutes.
Have to be added as digital partner of record on each dynamic subscription and not to the tenant as a whole.
Yes, correct.
Got it. Thank you so much, Leah. There is still a few additional questions that I will send to you, and we can take it one off with our
Okay.
partners. Really appreciate your time, and I think the only other things we have is Microsoft Inspire. If you haven't registered for it yet, please do. I think it's in July in Vegas, and the all access prices are going to go up come March 1st. So thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of the week.
Okay, thanks everybody. Take care.